or something like that?
If they make a sophisticated attack, they can implement stuff like that. Yeah. Typically, I mean, they're usually just there to get like user creds because it's simple and easy to set up. Because as soon as you log in, they can get that info, and then kind of like I said, if they're trying to be quiet, what they'll do is, did I? Okay, they'll do that, and then they'll just get that information. Hope they can log into like other emails or other accounts by you doing that. So it depends on sophisticativity, I guess is a word. Um, yeah, of the like threat actor and the attack they're doing. Most of the time, though, middleman attacks they don't really try to put in a lot of effort because it's very loud and people notice it. Um, so to give, like I said, real world, even recent examples of where this is happening is, like I said, ransomwares. What they'll do is they'll gain control of your computer, even if you pay the ransomware, even if you get the information back, they still exfiltrate the data off your computer. So now you already got your data stolen and possibly personal information if you have credit card information or whatever saved on your computer, because they're still gonna exfiltrate it. Um, and I mean, it's not just an issue of like recently. Ever heard of the recent federal social security number leak, where they had the whole database of social security numbers that was leaked for everyone in the United States? I mean, that happened only last year. That is still a form of digital privacy that got breached, and you didn't even have control over it. And then the next one I found online, which, like I said, there's some resources for other ones, but this was the University of Phoenix. 3.5 million people that either were alumni or like students or faculty or whatever from the University of Phoenix got their names taken, database, date of births, social security numbers, all this information and other identifiable info from the university. And again, that's just big examples from this year alone. They're all the time. They are often. It's why digital privacy is something you should consider because aside from even just maybe companies, which 9 times out of 10 have regulations and have reasons to care, the problem is the data they're collecting. There can still be threat actors who aren't following those guidelines who are going to take that information. And we can prove it through an example here. There's a website. Many of you probably know it. To those who don't, we're still going to go over it. There's a website called haveibeenpwned.com. And what you can do is you can input your email address. And I'll just use an example of literally one of my email addresses. And you can just see what data breaches you might have been a part of. So, if, like I said, if you guys want to follow along, either on the call or in person, you guys can always go on haveibeenpwned.com. And I'll just put in, I don't know what email I want to use. Let's use this one. So this is one of my personal emails. This is just like a random one. Just have random stuff on it. And I was in one data breach. This was in 2020. It was Teespring, and they got the email address, my geographic location, possibly my name, and social profiles. So, like I say, it's something you want to consider. You definitely don't want to get yourself in a bad position. And yeah. So that's like I said. There's always a site you can use for different email addresses. You can even test your Scarlet Mail. Like I'll do mine. I don't think it's gonna come up with anything because usually like that stuff gets secure unless like you start randomly going to other sites. But yeah, no breaches. So yeah, I mean it's still a lot of accounts. I mean you can see even see they listed it here. Like 17 billion people have at least been in one data breach. That's or at least I shouldn't say data, sorry, emails. That's not a small number of emails. Um, So yeah, it's definitely something you want to, like I said. I mean, you can always go to the site and always just periodically check to make sure you've never been in a breach. Not that you really can do anything if you do end up getting, your information taken, but it's at least something you can check. And also, it isn't always accurate. Let me make that clear. It just assumes based on accounts you signed up to through your email address. So that doesn't mean you were the person impacted based on like the data exfiltration directly. So one thing I want to make abundantly clear is me saying all this, obviously I'm saying it's important, but how do you know what is privacy? Um the thing is everyone has to have their own definition or own opinion towards what it means for them to have a certain level of privacy, right? Because maybe you don't care about ads, popping up or being relevant to what you're looking for, or maybe you don't care about like censorship or whatever. That's something you have to personally, through your own opinion, make. privacy can mean different stuff to literally everybody. And I'm not going to ask people to share their opinions or like make this a heated debate of who should care about what. But it's up to you as your own person to decide how much privacy matters to you, because there's also limitations to that. If you try to go for too much privacy, right, you're gonna sacrifice like ease of use and ease of like ability for things you do in life. So you kind of have to balance it. Do you want like do you care that much to the point where you kind of want to be private from literally everybody in life, but you don't care about sacrificing being able to do a lot of things? Or do you maybe fall on the other end of that spectrum where you don't really care as much? So that's something you'd have to think about for yourself. Um, so again, going back in the PII thing, basically PII is any personal identifiable info. It could be literally anything. It could be fingerprints, facial ID, driver's license info, financial info like bank statements, credit card info, anything like that. This pretty much is the main and major importance when it comes to digital privacy. This is the big reason why digital privacy exists, because if it's information about you and who you are as a person, which is the reason and the basis for why we should care about privacy. If they're just getting information like I logged onto the site and it didn't link back to you and it's just whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter to you. It's not going to possibly affect you in your future. Um, but for personally identifiable information, it does matter. So, um, to give a real world example again to like how actually easy it is for people to get info off of you. Uh, this is gonna be a quote unquote demo because I can't show this like being run right in this demo because for legal reasons they use the network. I can't do this on Rutgers network. That's not legal. I kind of did it overnight. I like VPN'd into my home network and I just did it on my home network because it's your network. But definitely I'm making this statement clear. What I'm going to show you, do not use on Rutgers Wi-Fi. Don't use it on any network. If you do not have permission to like use it on your own accounts, on your own information, that is illegal. That falls under that act I talked about earlier. Because you're using malicious. You're using people's accounts and people's like means for malicious intent, right? It's not your network. You didn't buy it. If it gets hacked, that falls on you. So don't do that. And here's a full disclaimer basically saying all that. I'm not telling you how to evade law enforcement. I'm not telling you you should do this for regular means. Like I said, I'm doing this more as like a research purpose and to show you guys that these things exist. Um, so I found two tools on GitHub last night. It's not really that hard to find. They really just exist. And here's some screenshots of the two different tools. So one handles web traffic and gets information based on the web, and the other is these are both info stealers, by the way, in general. And the other executes malware on a host machine. You just take the file, send it to someone's machine, and if you have it, execute on the machine, it will log you back the info. And we'll go into the code a little bit. I'm not going to go into the detail of the code because I didn't really analyze the code, but I'm still going to explain what each does and how each works to show how simplistically it is for someone to get information. So, like I said, the one on the left is kind of a little bit more basic. This one, there's that hashed string of integers there, and it's pretty much a binary that gets created from this tool. And that binary is an executable that you can run on a quote unquote victim machine. Now the way the tool's set up, it works on Windows only, but pretty much when you run it on the Windows machine, it will start collecting information like the IP address as well as like pretty much any information that's like bindable already on like Windows. So it also get like your key if you have a product key from Windows and a couple other things like that. Uh, Again, I just ran like not the code necessarily. I ran the code to make the file. I didn't do anything with the file because, like I said, otherwise that'd be illegal. But that's just a demonstration there of me getting that file right and having it exist. Now the bottom right one is a little bit more complex, but simple in the terms of like an info stealer. Um, It's a tool that essentially creates a PHP server and a local hosted web server that then you use a webhook through ngrok to connect to, and when you give people that link, it logs every time they log in, and when they log in, it gets all the cookies from their browser. So it'll tell you the browser name, browser information, the IP address of the machine, um, as well as any other info based on cookies from a web browser. And again, you can see why that would be an issue. You're getting identifiable info. You're getting their IP. You're getting their, you know, all their cookies from their sites, so you know what sites they've been to, you know what sites they're going to, you know what browser they're using, things like that. And here is pretty much the command line. Like on the right is the command line for that server being made. It's basically the same as this on the left, but I'll explain on the left what that is more. But pretty much, this is just each device that's connecting to the machine, and it's either closing or accepting their information from that local hosted site. Um, and you use ngrok because you don't obviously want people to just connect to the local host, and you need it to be on the web for people to connect. Otherwise, it's only on your machine. So it masks it through ngrok using that webhook. And as you can see here, we have two connections, which this is me, like I said, testing it on my own network. I just did two connections to see that it worked, my own device. Um, and you can see these are the two times. These are the times that it happened, the timestamps, and the actual requests. I'm not gonna, like I said, show the information because it genuinely is like the IP of my machine and things like that. Not doxing myself, but you get the point. Here's showing the two times it reached my device, and for people when they're running this, they wouldn't know because when you send them this link, this is that ngrok link I'm talking about. If you give them that link and they go to that site, all it does is redirect them back to google.com. So they might go on the site and like think this is like just Google and do whatever they're doing, which it really is. It's still Google, but it's still connected to this server, and I get all their information through their cookies by doing that. And that took me, not even joking, 3 hours to figure out. So I promise you, anyone who's trying to do it who actually has malicious intent, it's really not that hard to do. And like I said, I'll pull up the yeah, actually no, I won't pull up the GitHub story just because I don't want to like show that like make it look like I'm promoting it. But like I said, these are two tools that were used on GitHub. You can find them if you really search. Not that hard to find, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm just like saying, "Hey, go look at this info stealer." But yeah, so there's also a distinction that needs to be made, and I kind of say it on the slide, but I want to see if like someone can like kind of just reason their way through why that's the case. So there is a difference between privacy and security. Can anyone like explain what that difference is? Could be on, like I said, Google Meet too. Doesn't just have to be in person here. Yeah.
I would say privacy is more like just kind of your information or whatever it is, your data, only being known to you or whoever the owner of it is, but not necessarily secure and not necessarily unable to be seen by someone else if they really tried. Whereas security is like actual defense against other people trying to see private data.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. So, yeah, pretty much privacy, right, is just literally the whole idea of not letting others visualize or see things, like I said, about what your activities are. Where security is literally the act of, uh, like making it hard to not get info necessarily, but either like physically get into something, right? So a good example with that info stealer, right? It is pretty bad security too, right? It's pretty easy for like anyone to tell like that it's just like a regular web address. It's not even like it's not even HTTP secure. Like it's not hard. Um and that's bad security because it's just simple to like figure out okay, that's fake. Like you're going to know that link is not Google and you're not clicking on that, right? So that's something simplistic. Whereas like you can have but it's also a whole big point of like you can be private but not secure or more secure but less privacy. And like I said, a good example that would like shows up is like fingerprinting your device, right? When you put a fingerprint through your phone, that is a security feature that is harder to guess obviously than a pin, right? Your fingerprint is unique to you. But that also makes you less private because now your fingerprint info is stored on your phone. So now people can figure out your fingerprint from that. So now we're going to go into some privacy recommendations. Again, if anyone has more info on this than necessarily I do, because I don't fully go heavily into privacy. It's just something I do know. And if you want to give other recommendations, I'm more than welcome to that. And if you guys want to you know, like interject into it, you can do so. I have no problem with that. But here's some recommendations that I give based on things I know. Again, there's gonna be a wall of text. I'm not gonna read it all. And I'll post these slides as well if anyone wants to review it or like go into like more about everything. But one general recommendation is yeah, that's also a good answer, Amir. Like I said, there's that distinction between privacy and security. They're not necessarily like security isn't just a broad spectrum of privacy because you can, like I said, be really secure but not have privacy, right? Um, there's just many ways to do that. Let's think of like a physical example, right? You can have like a bulletproof window. You can still see through that window, so you're not really private, but it doesn't like it's still secure. No one's really getting into that area, so that's more a physical world, but it's the same idea digitally. Um, so starting off, the more kind of I'd say important one, uh, is browsers. Um, simply put, don't use Google. Google Chrome, Chromium, which is basically any Google Chrome like subsidiary. So like things like Brave, ironically me using Brave right now, is Chromium based, meaning they use Google Chrome. Uh, don't use Google Chrome if you want any type of privacy. Uh, they've been literally sued over collecting data. We know they collect a lot of data, pretty much all of it. So just automatically assume Google's out of the question. Um, Another one is Opera GX. They recently got sued over all that. I would not recommend Opera, even though it's like a fun one. It's still not worth it. Also, it already uses so much RAM anyways. Like anyone who knows anything about hardware, like it's don't. Um, my personal recommendations would be Firefox, just because it's its own platform, and they haven't really been known as much to breach people's data privacy. I mean, they still do. Everyone does. Again, there's really no way to avoid it, but it's just a better solution. And the paranoid solution, where data pretty much isn't getting tracked, is Tor, because we did a whole workshop on it. I'm not gonna go too much into it. Those people that have seen it, or they can always people that are new into the club, they can always check it out on our Discord. Um, Tor pretty much is impossible to trace. There's been tools recently developed that I've seen like out there through research that like it's it's possible, but it's still virtually impossible if that makes sense. Like it's happened a couple of times where they've been successful, but just bank on it not being tracked, like almost impossible. Um, yeah. And like I said, if anyone has any questions necessarily about these browsers, I could kind of try to answer them, but those are my recommendations for specific browsers. Now, for browser configuration, once you have Firefox, or even if you just want to still use Google, but you want to make it a little more secure, use an ad blocker. Then they're going to track your ads, and they're not going to send data about ads to you. Common one, I don't know if it still works because this is kind of an old one. I don't really know too much about ad blockers because some have built-in, like Brave has a built-in ad blocker, but uBlock Origin is a popular online ad blocker that I'm pretty sure is free. So no reason not to use it if you need. Is it still? Okay. And then another thing is a tool called NoScript, which you can fully disable JavaScript on web pages. There is settings on some browsers, like actually I'll pull it up on Brave right now just to give an example, that can disable JavaScript because they can run like they can get info through JavaScript applications. Also, it's just better in general for like regular security to disable it. But if you go here, I want to say it's in system. Nope. Where is it? Oh, actually, I think it was in there. Yeah, manage JavaScript optimization and security. So here you can literally disable don't allow sites to use JavaScript. Again, it isn't foolproof um, because some sites require JavaScript, so tools like NoScript are kind of better if you're just fully trying to disable it, but literally it will break some sites, so just keep that in mind. Um, and there are also configuration like sites you can go to configure Firefox to reduce your digital footprint, which is basically the big goal with all this. Um, and yeah, also you there are like some scripts out there you can run as well. That's a little more advanced, but you can do that to like also get more privacy on something like Firefox. So this is a big topic, operating systems. I'm not gonna dwell too much into it. I'm just gonna literally say, like the slides say, the basics. Like I said, anyone's free to interject if they have like specific recommendations in general. But pretty much the only thing I'm gonna say is just avoid Windows and Mac. Again, no, other companies that are known for getting in major trouble for stealing people's information and selling it online. Also, they are literally closed sourced, which what that means is the code is not available online. You can't see what they're doing. So who knows what their code's doing? Who knows what they're collecting? You can't see it, so you have no idea to know. Um, so my recommendation would be Linux because most of them are most of the distros are open source. Um, and you literally aren't gonna like you pretty much can read through the code if you really wanted to be honest. I mean, no one, I don't think any of us here is that big a geniuses to read through it all, but you can pretty much figure out if they're doing bad things. And there are again studies that have been done, researchers who have looked into like different Linux distributions to see which ones have the best privacy. So you can always figure those things out online. Again, I'm not going to give recommendations for what distribution. That's for something for you guys to again determine based on your privacy model of what you feel is most important. But that's something to consider. And the Paranoid option is similar to kind of Tor. Tails is an OS built literally from Tor. Same idea. It is different in like terms of how it works. I don't necessarily know. I don't have experience with it, but I do know it is extremely secure and almost impossible to like get info off of. Um, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Queb's OS is not really something you can run locally, but again, that's why it's a paranoid decision, because like you shouldn't probably do it. Um, and yeah, you're really not going to be able to run. But again, if you're that concerned about privacy, it's something to consider. Um, and I'll say this is probably actually the biggest one. I kind of lied with the browser and OS one. I mean, this is all important stuff, right? But phones are probably actually the worst, to be honest with you. Everyone has a phone nowadays. I don't know like a single person that doesn't, no matter where you are in the world. Um, and everything on your phone pretty much is a data harvesting device, right? Your microphone, your camera, you have location through GPS connection whenever you well, literally just built into your phones now. Calls, text can be harvested, mobile data in general, whenever you're connecting to any wireless carrier. Um, so that's a lot of information just already there, and that's not even going into detail about specific things that might be on your phone, like apps and things like that that can harvest it, as well as your operating system on your phone. Um, but going into this, the recommended option would be to use hardened Android, which again, limitation of devices allowed on it and configuration is hard. So it, I'd say it's recommended for people that again like really want to get into like privacy and that's something they want to study. Then I'd say look into that. For the average person, even though it's recommendation, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a good option. I hate to say it as much as I want to. My personal recommendation is just use your current operating system and just like lock everything down that you can. Um, the extremely paranoid option being literally a burner phone, or just having a jailbroken phone with another again operating system. But again, that's a whole like study in itself. That's crazy. That's crazy. Dumb phone. It's funny. So another big thing, like I said, this goes kind of piggybacking off of the phone thing is the messaging services. And as I even say it there, to be honest, there's really no good way to avoid like data collection through messaging. Um, Almost every service can see and collect your data. it's pretty hard to just like not, get your data collected in that way. Um, the best option would be, in my opinion, I hate to say it, but it would literally be Signal, and that's still bad as we've literally proven in like June because apparently people don't know to lock down. Oh, I've never even heard of Matrix. Okay, well that I guess that's an option. But yeah, so Signal. The issue is, I mean, literally, if people add people to group chats, like you're still like getting information taken because people can just join, as long as they're added. But it does have end-to-end encryption though, which means you can't really just hijack any of those messages. You can't really see it unless, like I said, you make a mistake with it. For social media, um, again, same idea. You can't really have social media and have amazing privacy. Um, so yeah, but for most, I would just like recommend opting out of whatever data collection is possible. So if you go on like Instagram, I'm not gonna pull it up, but you can literally go into settings and you can see like, where they're like, oh, do you want this data collected? Literally just go down everything and just say nope, 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 nope. That's the best you really can do if you still want to use social media. But I'm gonna be real. Their whole point is to harvest data, no matter what social media, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, literally anything. Like, so just you're kind of, if you want to keep that as an option, you kind of are going to sacrifice data. Yeah.
For Signal, you say it's best for like communication between another person, not necessarily like among multiple people.
Uh,
Just like direct communication.
it is good for groups, but the issue is you don't know what other people are going to do. And so that's why it becomes a problem. So yeah, I'd say definitely like if it's just like one to one, I mean, even the person, yeah. But I don't know enough about Matrix. Mir keeps mentioning it. It might be something to look into if anyone wants to see more info about that. Um, that might be a better option in general. Um, and for smart home devices, IoT devices, Internet of Things devices on your home network, yeah, just don't. Again, this one's even worse than like social media. The reason I say this is, um, let's just do a thought experiment. Everyone knows here what a smart fridge is, right? Okay. So when you have a smart fridge in your home, what does it need to do, like, to be smart? How does it function in being smart? Okay, yeah. But what does it do on the internet aside from just being connected to it? Anyone know?
I think this is a matter of like we all don't have a smart fridge, so like we don't go.
I mean, like, I'm thinking it's kind of more intuitive though. But what I was more going for, because I don't have a smart fridge either, is just like you're usually smart fridges. They have an operating system where you can do a lot of stuff on it, like go on Google, things like that. It's the exact same problem. They're gonna collect your data, and the issue with a smart device, even if you include, let's say, a smart fan, right? You can't control what permissions that device uses or what it does. You don't get any say in that. So using IoT devices, you're literally putting everything at risk, and it is even worse than like sometimes the phone and stuff. Because think about it, like, look, let's say if you have like a Ring camera, right? That's literally a camera in your home that you cannot control what goes on with it. So if someone hijacks it, well, now they can see what's in your home if they somehow hijack your home network. So yeah, my biggest recommendation out of anything, if you're gonna take anything away, just don't use smart home devices if you can avoid it. They might be convenient, but again, just don't do it. Yeah, and like Amir said, literally, you buy a new like freaking washing machine now. It has a smart app with it. Like you can't get away from it now. It's annoying, but as much as you can avoid it, I say try to. At least as of the state smart devices are in now. So yeah,
Yeah, with the IoTs, at most you probably just set up some firewall rules to like make sure those devices can't access like different websites or whatever, wherever they're sending info.
true, but again, that still comes down to limitation though, because you're not controlling specifically what that device does, and that's the issue with it. Um, so again, big overall recommendation. There's a whole reason I went into that. That was kind of just more of an overview of different devices and different ways of helping with digital privacy. But the biggest point if you're gonna take anything away from this presentation, this is the biggest thing. Just do your own research because I can't tell you how much or what private data privacy matters to you. Maybe you don't care about any of what I'm saying right now. You don't care at all. And you want to and you're like, whatever, okay, I'll go use a IoT device. I'm not going to tell you not to. It's your opinion and your decision to make. If you want to go ahead and do that, go and do that. I'm not going to stop you. But that's why I'm saying it matters to what your own definition, how you define privacy and what you care about based on your personal beliefs. So research different levels of privacy, research these different methods, and some of them might be complex or slow things down and not be really a good recommendation. But that's why you need to make your own decisions about the degree of privacy you want, and the only way to do that is to research and learn more about these types of privacy. Because again, I have an hour here. I can't exactly just like we this ain't a whole course. You know what I mean? I can't go into everything. So, anyone have any questions or closing out statements? It could be anything, even if you were confused on maybe a term I used in presentation that was kind of more cyber security-esque. I can explain any of that, just because it's the first presentation we have for the club. So I mean for the workshops, anyways. Yeah.
I was just curious, when you said you connected through your home, you connected to your home network from through a VPN. I was just curious, on the process of that. It just sounded like
So there are services you can use, things like WireGuard, OpenVPN, and a couple others where you can reroute your IP to route to your home network, and that's what I did. I routed to my home network to connect to it. Granted, it is slow, obviously. We're going over the wire to do so, and then I did it on my home local network because I have access to that. My dad is kind of a little techie too, and we have a WireGuard connection set up, so I was able to do that. That's the only reason I also, like I said, took screenshots because I can't demo it here. I'm on Rutgers Network. I'm not incriminating myself as stupid. But that was kind of the process of how I did that. It's not like I went to my house. Be nice if I could, but yeah, you get the idea. And like I said, that's with permission, of course, because that's on your network. If you have permission to do everything, it's on your local stuff. It's not necessarily illegal as long as it doesn't interface with other people. Because you could hack your own device if you want to. It's your stuff. That's what matters. The issue is once it becomes an issue of something you don't own. That's when it becomes a problem. Anyways, here's a bunch of resources. I'll share the slides eventually, and I'll let you guys see everything and read through some of these articles as well as go to different websites and stuff. But yeah, thank you all for coming to our first workshop. Here's also a couple QR codes to our Get Involved, Instagram and Discord for anyone who hasn't gone it or who's new to the club. And yeah, for anyone who is also new, most of our stuff's announced and posted through Discord, so it's not a bad idea to join it, but if you can't, yeah, I mean, we still post our meetings through Instagram if that's what you care about. So yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for your time.